Speech, 7 principles that transformed my life in one day. There comes a moment in life when you are tired of being pulled by every wave, wounded by every word, and shaken by every storm. That moment is the turning point, when you decide to govern yourself rather than be governed by the chaos around you. One day, I made that decision, and in that single day, 7 principles took root in my heart and changed my life forever. First, I realized the power of controlling my mind. No event in itself has the power to disturb me. It is my opinion about the event that causes pain, the insults of others, the loss of possessions, the changes of fortune. These only injure me if I give them permission to. That day, I stopped giving permission. Second, I learned to distinguish what is mine from what is not. My actions, my choices, my words, these belong to me. The actions of others, the weather, the course of fate, these do not. I stopped trying to command the wind and instead mastered the sails of my own will. Third, I embraced the fleeting nature of life. Every breath I take is borrowed. The people I love, the moments I cherish, they are gifts, not possessions. Instead of clinging to them, I hold them gently, knowing they may pass from me at any moment. This made my gratitude deeper than ever before. Fourth, I committed to virtue over comfort. The easy path invites weakness. The hard path shapes strength. I no longer ask, is this pleasant? But is this right? In choosing the right, I have found a peace far greater than pleasure could offer. Fifth, I understood that suffering is a teacher. Pain is not the enemy. It is the forge in which character is tempered. Every difficulty is an opportunity to practice patience, courage, and self-control. The day I welcomed pain as a companion rather than an intruder, I grew stronger. Sixth, I chose to speak less and listen more. Words once rushed from my mouth to prove my worth. Now I see that wisdom often stands in silence. By listening, I learn. By pausing, I prevent regret. The tongue is sharp. Silence keeps it sheathed. Seventh, I let go of the need for approval. No crown of human praise can add to who I am. The applause of the crowd fades quickly, but integrity lasts forever. That day, I stopped performing for the world and started living for the truth within. One day, 7 principles, and my life was never the same. These are not magic spells or secret formulas. They are the ancient laws of reason and nature. They require no special talent, only the willingness to live by them without compromise. Master your mind. Your peace depends on how you interpret events, not the events themselves. To master the mind is to take command of the very seat of your existence. Every day, we are surrounded by countless events, both large and small, that seem to demand our emotional response. A careless comment from a friend, an unexpected bill, a sudden change in plans. These things can so easily send us into frustration, anger, or anxiety. Yet the truth is, none of these events hold the power to disturb us on their own. They are neutral in nature, empty of meaning until we give them meaning. It is not the world that presses upon us with weight. It is the interpretation we place upon it that either frees us or chains us. When I first grasped this, I realized that my emotions had been under the control of external forces for too long. I had allowed situations, people, and chance to dictate my state of mind. I lived like a puppet, with strings pulled by whatever happened to occur. But the moment I understood that my mind alone determines my inner condition, the strings fell away. This was the first great step toward freedom. The mind is like a fortress. A fortress can only be taken if the gates are left open. Every insult, every setback, every disappointment tries to march inside and lay claim to your peace. But you are the gatekeeper. You choose what enters. If you allow every passing event to flood into your thoughts, you will live in constant turmoil. But if you guard your mind and carefully choose what you permit inside, you will stand unshaken. Mastering the mind does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It does not mean refusing to feel. Rather, it means learning to feel without being ruled by feeling. Anger, fear, sorrow, they may knock at the door, but they do not have to take up residence. You can acknowledge their presence without surrendering control to them. You can look at a difficult situation and say, "This is not good or bad in itself, it simply is. I will decide what it will mean to me." There is great dignity in this. When you master your mind, you cease to be at the mercy of fortune. Whether you are praised or insulted, enriched or impoverished, surrounded by friends or standing alone, your inner state remains steady. It is like the deep ocean, unaffected by the surface waves. This mastery is not gained in a single moment, though the decision to pursue it can be made in an instant. It requires daily discipline, constant reflection, and the humility to admit when you have let your mind wander into unworthy territory. But each time you pull it back, each time you choose calm over chaos, reason over reaction, you strengthen the walls of your inner fortress. And with time, you discover that the storms of life no longer shake you, for you carry your peace within you, untouchable by the world. Control what's yours. Release what's not. Focus on your actions and choices, not external circumstances. To distinguish what is mine from what is not is to draw the boundary between peace and frustration. For much of life, we blur this line without realizing it. We take ownership of things that never belonged to us, people's opinions, the choices of others, the outcomes of events, and then wonder why we are constantly disappointed. The truth is simple. My thoughts, my words, my actions, these are mine. They are within my grasp, under my command. Everything else lies beyond my control. And to fight for control over what is not mine is to wage a battle I can never win. This understanding is like standing on a shore and seeing the tide. I cannot command the sea to stay still, nor can I order the wind to change its direction, but I can choose how I will set my sails. I can decide whether to build my house close to the water or high on the hill. My will governs my course. The rest belongs to the vast order of nature, which obeys no man. Once this truth settled in my heart, I felt a strange freedom. I no longer needed to manipulate circumstances or bend people to my desire. I could release them, letting them be as they are, while turning my energy inward toward the one domain I truly command, myself. I cannot make someone treat me with kindness, but I can decide to act with integrity regardless of their behavior. I cannot prevent the passing of time, but I can choose to fill my hours with purpose. The greatest thief of joy is the illusion of control. When we try to govern what belongs to fate, we are destined for exhaustion. A traveler does not curse the rain for falling. He simply finds shelter and continues his journey. In the same way, I learned not to curse what I cannot change, but to adapt and move forward. This is not resignation. It is wisdom. It is to acknowledge reality as it is, and to work skillfully within its boundaries. This principle also taught me responsibility, for if only my choices are mine, then I can no longer shift blame for them. I cannot point to circumstances or other people as excuses for my actions. The steering of my life is in my own hands, and if I crash upon the rocks, I must admit that it was my own hand at the helm. Strangely, this responsibility does not weigh me down. It lifts me up, for in owning my choices fully, I also claim the power to shape them for the better. Now, when life unfolds in ways I did not plan, I remind myself, this is not mine to control. My task is to respond with wisdom, courage, and grace. The rest belongs to the great flow of the world, which I cannot command, and in letting go of the impossible, I hold more firmly to the possible, the mastery of my own life. Value the present life is fleeting, so cherish every moment without clinging to it. To embrace the fleeting nature of life is to awaken to the truth that nothing we see, touch, or hold will remain with us forever. Every breath we take is a gift we cannot keep. The people we love, the moments that warm our hearts, the opportunities that come our way, all of them are passing through our lives like travelers on a road. We may walk alongside them for a time, but one day the paths will diverge. To live without recognizing this truth is to cling to shadows, and when they slip from our grasp, we are left with nothing but grief. But to live with this awareness is to treasure each moment more deeply than before. When I came to understand this, I began to look at my life differently. I stopped treating the days as if they were endless and the people around me as if they would always be there. I realized that even the most ordinary of moments, a shared meal, a quiet conversation, the simple act of watching the sun rise, was precious beyond measure because it would never come again in the same way. This did not make me sad, it made me grateful. There is a strange strength that comes from accepting the temporary nature of all things. We no longer try to hold them tightly, fearing their loss. Instead, we hold them gently, appreciating them fully while we have them. Just as we cannot command the blossoms to stay upon the tree, we cannot stop the turning of time, but we can admire the beauty while it lasts and be thankful that we were there to see it. This truth also frees us from the fear of loss. If I know from the start that nothing is mine to keep forever, I am not shattered when it passes from me. I may feel sorrow, yes, for love cannot exist without the risk of pain, but I do not fall into despair. The passing of what I cherish reminds me that I was blessed to have it at all. It is not the absence that defines the value, but the presence I once enjoyed. Living with this awareness also shapes how I act. I no longer postpone kindness, assuming there will be another chance. I speak the words of gratitude now while I can. I forgive more easily, knowing that pride wastes the time we are given. I let go of grudges, for they only steal from the short years we have. Life is a river, always moving, never still. We can try to stand against the current and be swept away in frustration, or we can step into its flow with open hands, receiving what it brings and releasing what it carries away. In doing so, we find not sorrow in the passing of things, but joy in their presence, however brief it may be. This is the art of living with a full heart in a fleeting world. Choose virtue over comfort, seek what is right, not just what is easy or pleasurable. To choose virtue over comfort is to make a deliberate decision to live by what is right rather than what is easy. Comfort is tempting. It promises rest, safety, and pleasure. But it is often a quiet thief, stealing our strength little by little until we no longer have the will to face what is difficult. Virtue, on the other hand, is not always pleasant. It demands discipline, sacrifice, and courage. Yet in pursuing it, we gain something comfort can never offer, the peace of knowing we have lived in alignment with truth. There was a time when I measured my decisions by how they made me feel in the moment. If a path was smooth, I took it. If it was steep, I turned away. But I began to see that the smooth paths often led nowhere of value, while the steep ones brought me to places of strength and character. Comfort shields us from pain, but it also shields us from growth. Virtue does the opposite. It requires that we step into difficulty, not for the sake of suffering, but for the sake of becoming better. Choosing virtue means asking not, will this make me happy now, but will this make me a better person in the end? It means telling the truth even when a lie would save us trouble. It means keeping a promise even when it costs us. It means standing for justice when silence would protect us from criticism. These moments are not easy, they test the soul, but it is in these tests that we find the weight of our own character. There is a false peace in comfort, for it lasts only as long as circumstances remain favorable. The peace of virtue, however, does not depend on what happens around us. It springs from the knowledge that we have done what is right, regardless of the cost. This kind of peace cannot be taken from us, because it lives within our own choices. Comfort seeks to preserve the self, virtue seeks to perfect it. Comfort says, avoid the storm. Virtue says, sail through it with honor. Comfort is content to keep us as we are. Virtue calls us to become more than we are. And while comfort fades when life becomes hard, virtue grows stronger in the very face of hardship. In choosing virtue, we also learn that true happiness is not found in pleasure, but in purpose. The joy that comes from a comfortable life is shallow. It can be overturned by the smallest disturbance. But the joy that comes from living with integrity is deep, enduring, and unshaken by the winds of change. Every day we stand at a crossroads between the path of comfort and the path of virtue. The first is inviting and easy, but it ends in weakness. The second is narrow and demanding, but it ends in strength, wisdom, and peace. If we are to live with honor, we must choose the second again and again until it becomes our way of life. Detach from approval, live by inner truth rather than seeking the praise or validation of others. To detach from approval is to free yourself from one of the most subtle yet powerful chains a person can wear. From an early age, we are taught to measure our worth through the eyes of others, through their praise, their recognition, their applause. We learn to shape our words and actions to win their approval, believing that it will bring us security and happiness. But the truth is, the approval of others is a shifting wind. It changes with moods, trends, and misunderstandings. If we tie our peace to it, we will be tossed about endlessly, never finding rest. There was a time when I sought to please everyone around me. I adjusted my behavior to fit their expectations, afraid of their disapproval. And when I received praise, I felt validated. But I began to notice something troubling. The same people who praised me one day could criticize me the next, not because I had changed, but because their view had shifted. I realized then that I had been building my sense of self on an unstable foundation. Detachment from approval does not mean becoming rebellious or indifferent to others entirely. It means no longer making the opinions of others the ruler by which you measure your worth. It means living according to your convictions, guided by principles rather than popularity. When you act with integrity, the approval you need comes from within, and no one can take it away. When I embraced this principle, I felt a deep sense of relief. I no longer had to exhaust myself trying to manage how I was perceived. I could focus instead on being truthful, consistent, and just. Sometimes this brought praise, sometimes criticism, but neither could sway me from the course I knew to be right. I became like a tree rooted deeply in the ground, able to stand firm whether the winds of opinion were for me or against me. Seeking approval keeps us in a constant state of anxiety, because we are trying to control something that is not ours to control, the thoughts of others. People will see us through the lens of their own experiences, beliefs, and moods. We cannot change that. What we can change is our response, whether we live as captives to their judgments or as free individuals anchored in truth. Ironically, when we stop chasing approval, we often gain a deeper respect from others. People recognize authenticity when they see it. They may not always agree with you, but they will know that your words and actions are not a performance. More importantly, you will know it yourself. To live without needing approval is to live with a quiet strength. It is to rise each day with the aim of doing what is right, regardless of who notices or applauds. Praise becomes pleasant but unnecessary. Criticism becomes instructive but not destructive. In this way, you step out of the arena of constant judgment and into the freedom of a life lived with integrity.